Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inside LSU Baseball. I'm your host, Jason Armstrong. We got 1 week down. The first week of SEC play is in the books, and you are here today for the preview episode of LSU and Texas, a top 10 matchup going down in Austin, Texas this weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday series. LSU is at number 2 in the country. Texas is right at number 8. So this is going to be an awesome series. I'm sure it's going to be a packed house. There'll be lots of LSU fans there as well. And so we're going to get into it. We're going to break down the series, kind of look back on Texas and their previous series so we can, which kind of tells us a lot about their team. And just kind of talk about some key aspects of this series. You know, what is LSU? What should they expect? And what do they need to happen? So Texas is off to a good start. First year under Jim Schlossnagle. They come in sweeping Mississippi State, which is kind of a surprise, I think. They go to Starkville and they get a sweep. And I could have saw them winning this series, but I think getting all 3 of them was kind of surprising, And then they come back this week, and in the midweek, they play UTSA, and they drop the game in extra innings. So entering Tuesday, Tennessee had the longest win streak in the country at 20 games. I think their last loss was back to like Evansville in the Super Regional. Tennessee loses Tuesday night. So Texas had the longest win streak because after they lost the first game of the year to Louisville, they reeled off 17 straight. Well, Texas loses. So that puts your LSU Tigers, after beating UNO, at 16-game winning streak, which is the longest in the country right now. And they will take that into to Austin this weekend. So I don't know how great I feel about that can continuing. Hopefully they get a couple more wins, but we will see what happens. So couple of storylines right off the bat. You got some connections between the two teams, which I like to do this. Assistant coach Nolan Cain, who was with Schloss at Texas A&M, was somebody that played at LSU, coached at LSU. He actually pitched on the national championship team in 2009, I believe, that played Texas in the national championship. So that's one. LSU pitcher Grant Fontenot pitched at Texas last year, actually got in the game for a little short stint. I think it was in Houston when LSU and Texas played last year. Fontenot got in the game, so he's a former Texas player. Now he's back, home at Louisiana at LSU. Aiden Moffitt, real talented freshman who decided this past year to transfer to Texas. He's now on the roster at Texas. He's only faced one batter this year. Interestingly enough, I reached out, was talking a little bit to Zach, who I'm losing his last name right now. I'm so sorry, but does a great podcast. I think Zach at the Dish for Texas. And he was just telling me that, I saw Aiden Moffitt in the alumni game. He looked incredible when I saw him pitch his inning. But I was talking to Zach about this, and he was just saying after fall, when he came back from Christmas, his off speed didn't look the same. And I thought maybe he was hurt because he's faced one batter all year. And he just hasn't gotten, in that circle of trust with the Texas, the coaching staff. So he hasn't pitched at all, basically. The other connection is Luis Hernandez, the LSU catcher, and Jared Spencer, Texas's ace pitcher, played together the last few years at Indiana State. So a couple of connections there. Got some numbers to start off with. Texas is coming in after Tuesday night, batting .296 on the year. Got an ERA of 3.23, fielding 370. That would be the worst fielding percentage ever. Fielding .973, where LSU is really impressive, batting .345 on the year, 3.32 ERA, fielding .980. So, I think you get a much better feel for a team's talent and their tendencies by measuring what they do again on weekends because of the caliber of play. So let's start there. Opening weekend was weird. It impacted every team. The weather was a big deal, and Texas and Mississippi State had a doubleheader Sunday, so they had two seven inning games. I think maybe one other series, the Oklahoma South Carolina series, had to do that as well, play a doubleheader. But that I hate those. It kind of messes up a lot. And so some of the numbers are going to be skewed because especially for like pitching staffs, only having to go out there for 7 innings for 2 games instead of 9. It can just throw things off. And I actually think that the doubleheader might have helped Texas because I think, and I know Texas has pitched the ball well. I think Mississippi State's got a really deep pitching staff, especially that bullpen. And so Texas only having to after the 1-9 in the game, play the next 2 games for 7 innings each, helped them. Matter of fact, they only used four bullpen arms all weekend. So, that's a real luxury to if it works out for you, great. And they did. They swept. The offense wasn't great. They had some big hits, but it was one of those deals where they just did a little bit more than Mississippi State did this past weekend. So starting with the rotation, if you look at the 3 starters that Texas had, and I know they're going to roll out the same at least for game 1 and 2. I think it's TBA right now for game 3. But they rolled out the left-handed transfer pitcher from Indiana State, Jared Spencer. He threw 5 2/3 against Mississippi State on Friday. Luke Harrison threw only 4 innings. And then they came with game 2 of the doubleheader. So game 3, Jason Flores, and he only went 3 2/3. So the total innings of their starters were 13 1/3. Very similar to LSU's starting rotation against Missouri. They went 13 2/3. So a lot of similarities there. I'm not going to figure that that's the norm every week, but were some parallels between Texas's rotation and LSU's opening weekend. Now, Jared Spencer, I mentioned, he's their ace. And he's good. He started 5 games. He's got a 2.36 ERA. He's thrown 26 2/3 innings, only 10 walks, 36 strikeouts. His fastball can get up to 97 miles an hour, but, and he's got a really nice breaking ball. But this isn't, and he's a big old guy, but he's not like a Hagen Smith type of an at-bat where he's just blowing it by you and the slider's unhittable. I think he's certainly very good, but he's not that type of pitcher by any means, at least in my eyes. He got roughed up early in his start against Mississippi State, allowing 4 runs on 2 home runs within the first 2 innings. Now, State didn't score again until 2 outs in the 6th inning after they got an RBI single to make it like a 5-3 game. That's when they pulled Jared Spencer. So his final line was 5 2/3. He gave up 8 hits, 5 runs, and only 1 walk and 7 strikeouts. But they were behind. They were behind 5-3 when he left the game. Now they replaced Jared Spencer with old reliable Andrew Duplantier. I think is how you say it. I should know from Louisiana. It sounds like a little French pronunciation. But he replaced Spencer, and he didn't allow a hit for 3 innings. And Duplantier led Texas last year with in appearances. So this is a guy with a proven track record. I mean, he's a crafty vet. He's a 3/4 kind of slot guy. And he doesn't throw extremely hard. He's just got like a bunch of different like breaking balls, and he can really just keep you off guard with the off-speed stuff. but he's a tough somebody to face, especially after seeing a lefty who's throwing 95, 96. But on the year, he's got 7 appearances. He's given up only 3 hits in 11 innings, and teams are batting .83 against him. Now, he did have a situation in the midweek game where he got taken out during warmups, but from what I see, he seems to be okay for this weekend, but I'm not 100%. And we did face him. He's pitched, I want to say, the last two years against LSU, because LSU has faced Texas the last 2 years, and he's pitched both games. So you might remember him, or when you see him, he might ring a bell. But he pitched well against Mississippi State, and kind of held Mississippi State until Texas could get the bats going. Casey Borba hit a 3-run home run late in that game to give Texas a lead off of really Mississippi State's best reliever, Chase Hungate, the Virginia transfer. He's a sidearmer that's been really good for 2 years now. The good news is that LSU doesn't really have anybody like that. So if Texas is really effective against sidearm guys, well, we don't have anybody like that. So that's the good news. But Texas got up 8-5, and then Dylan Volantis, he's a 6'6" lefty. He came in to close out the game. He did give up a 2-run double. The runs were charged to Duplantier, and then so State closed it to 8-7, but then he did get out the jam. And Texas wound up winning the game 8-7. Now, Volantis is interesting because he actually, and I'll talk about this, pitched twice. And I don't know the role he has. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he started this weekend. He can kind of do it in a bunch of different ways. I know they're high on him. He's got a 1.65 ERA on the year, only 3 bases on balls to 16 strikeouts. And he did make 2 appearances this weekend. So Texas had 2 big home runs, one by Rylan Galvan, one by Casey Borba, which allowed them to squeak out the win. Game 1, Game 2, which I've already seen they are going to come with the same starter. Game 2 was another lefty, Luke Harrison, and again he got off to a rough start in the first inning. He went walk, single, walk, hit batter. So Texas was down early, but he did escape, only allowing a run. Over his outing, he threw 4 innings, gave up 2 hits. He did walk 4. Harrison has been good. In 5 games started, 2.08 ERA. Teams are only batting 195 against him. And State did chase him in the 5th inning, down 3-1. They got him out the game, and that's when Texas went to Ruger Riojas. He was first in relief. He pitched 2 innings. He allowing 1 run was charged to Harrison, and then he allowed 1 of his own. But Riojas, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He is a transfer from UTSA, where he made 26 appearances last year. So he actually leads the team with 8 appearances. He's got 20 innings, 20 in the 3rd innings. 3.98 ERA, 4-1 record, 5 bases on balls, 20 strikeouts. He can do long relief, very versatile, really good off-speed pitch. I saw him throwing a straight change. He could get the ball up there a little bit, but I was more impressed by his off-speed. Texas did win Game 2. It was a 3-3 tie when Max Ballou hit a 2-run home run. It was his only hit of the series. So they went up 5-3. Dylan Volantis came back in to close the game. He threw the last inning, and Texas won 5-3. So they're up 2-0. Game 3, they started Jason Flores. Now, I don't know if they're doing that again against LSU because it just says TBA when they release the pitching matchups. He's got a good arm. He's a freshman. He was like a top 100 freshman by perfect game. Throws mid-90s. He's another one with a couple of good breaking balls. He threw the first 3 2/3 of the game, and then Max Grubbs came in and threw the final 3 1/3. Now, Max Grubbs is somebody that started 12 games for Texas last year in 2024. So both pitchers combined to only allow 4 hits against Mississippi State. So really good job there. Grubbs actually, wouldn't say he's the closer. A lot of these guys can pitch in multiple roles, but he's got 4 saves on the year, .098 ERA. Teams are only batting 182 against him. So, and it's a common theme. This bullpen was pretty good over the weekend. And catcher Rylan Galvan homered for the second time in the series. He's the one that gave Texas a lead early. Texas scored tacked on 2 more runs in the 7th. And again, it was a 7-inning game, not a 9-inning game. So they won the game 4-1. So there was a couple of games when they only had to use, two pitchers. And that's a major luxury to where and State didn't play bad. So it'd be interesting to know how that series goes if they have to go, 3 9-inning games. Texas bullpen was solid. They only allowed 3 earned runs in 9 2/3 innings. The guys that I mentioned so far that pitched in that Mississippi State series are really the top guys for Texas. There's a couple more that I'll get to, but like Duplantier, Riojas, they look like, maybe long relief guys, kind of the first guys out the pen. Volantis, they used them almost at the end of games, but we could see him used in a variety of ways. Max Grubbs leads the team in saves, but also started a bunch last year, so he can give them length. So good pitching staff. That's really been the story of this team. I'm going to talk about the offense because I think they've got some really good guys. The pitching staff was a question mark coming in, but they've been good. Now, I don't think they're full of like really scary, just really good stuff guys. They're just they throw strikes and they're effective, good off speed. But anyway, let's talk about the offense. What we know about Schloss offenses is that they are extremely patient. They don't swing at I made this point last year when LSU was going to face A&M in that series, is how important it was to get ahead with strikes because they don't swing at a lot of first pitch strikes. And I remember the story that going back to, it was like in 2023, I don't remember if it was in Hoover, but they had like a mic on in the dugout. And they caught Schloss talking to one of his players. He was getting on him because he swung out a first pitch of an AB. And I've heard him talk about this, that every pitch that you see from a pitcher, your average goes up and up and up. So much so that when my daughter got involved in travel ball, this is something I told her constantly. Like, look, do not swing at the first pitch. Unless you get up to bat, and there's a runner on third base and a new pitcher tries to groove a fastball. That's a different story. But, you get up to bat against a new pitcher, feel him out, see what he's got. So they're going to be patient. And we'll talk more about why that's important, how to use that, against them for these LSU pitchers. But against Mississippi State, Texas's 2, 3, and 4-hole hitters went 1 for 30 with 10 strikeouts. So and we're going to talk more about the guys that make up this offense. But Max Ballou, Jalen Flores, and Adrian Rodriguez, that's the 2, 3, and 4-hole hitters, 1 for 30. That's hard to do. Now, the one of that 1 for 30 was a huge home run that essentially won the game for Texas. Now, during the midweek game Tuesday night, those same guys did break out. They went 5 for 16 with 2 home runs. So, I'd rather that happen than them bring that drought into LSU, because at some point the ball's going to bounce your way. But to summarize Texas's opening weekend in SEC play, the starters lacked depth, but they did battle and minimize damage. The bullpen did a good job. They were very serviceable and were able to really get to the end of the game. And the offense used some key home runs to outlast Mississippi State. It wasn't a great offensive weekend. Mississippi State only hit like 238 against Mississippi State pitchers all weekend. I do think Mississippi State has a very good pitching staff. So now I did get to see 2 Tuesday night, I got another look at Texas in the midweek game. They ran out Drew Rarick out there, and this is a guy with a big old arm. I mean, he would, second pitch of the game to the, I think it was the first batter of the game, second pitch, he gave up a home run. Then he walked a guy, threw a wild pitch, walked another guy, hit somebody, and then he gets pulled. So he didn't even record an out. The reason I mention this is because they brought in a lefty named Cade Bing, who's, I think, a JUCO transfer, I believe, from McLennan. And he did nothing but gives Texas 5 innings, no hits, no runs, no walks. We're going to see that guy again. So Cade Bing was very good during the midweek. Now, Texas got homers from right fielder Max Ballou, DH freshman phenom Adrian Rodriguez. They actually entered the game with a 6-2 lead over UTSA. But the bullpen guys, and look, it's a midweek. They're seeing what they got. So they bring in a couple guys. They couldn't hold the lead. So UTSA gets a lead in the 7th. Rylan Galvan then ties the game with a third homer he's hit in 4 games. We'll talk more about him. But UTSA ultimately got a 12th inning home run to win the game. I was impressed with a couple of guys. Reliever, he's a right-handed pitcher, Cody Howard for Texas. He came in, man, pumping 95, 96 with a sharp breaking ball, and he held UTSA hitters, for 2 innings. And then I thought it was very interesting because Texas went to Ruger Riojas, who pitched in the weekend series against Mississippi State. He's like one of their main relievers. And he came in and pitched the final 4 innings. Remember, this went 12 innings. 4 innings, 3 hits, only 1 run, no walks, 5 strikeouts. And again, I thought that was interesting. You don't think midweek games matter? I mean, they went to one of their best relievers. So the story of this game, though, for me, was Cade Bing's scoreless 5 innings, Cody Howard, because he didn't pitch in the opening SEC series. And then Riojas again. The other story for me offensively was seeing shortstop Jalen Flores break out of his slump. He was 0 for 9 with 5 strikeouts against Mississippi State, and he had a 3-hit game. So this Texas offense is extremely talented. They're full of experience. Basically, you take catcher Rylan Galvan, third baseman Casey Borba, shortstop Jalen Flores, first baseman Kimball Schuessler, center fielder Will Gasparino, right fielder Max Ballou. All of these guys are either hitting a little over 300 or hitting right below it. Now, Gasparino's hitting more like 240, but he looks really good this year. I've seen him with some big home runs, hit some key hits, and that's don't let the average fool you. So you take all those guys, you throw in Tommy Farmer, who's a returning player, who is a specimen at 6'3", 210. This is a guy who plays unbelievable defense in left field. And he's got, scouts love this guy. He's a draft eligible sophomore, so his numbers offensively don't look great. But so you take all these guys that are on that team, all right, already, and now you add Arizona State transfer infielder Ethan Mendoza, who started in 49 games for Arizona State last year as a freshman. You take UL Monroe, freshman second team All-American by perfect game last year, Easton Winfield, and add those guys to this lineup. This is a salty lineup. Now, they haven't killed the ball all year long. They're not doing the things that necessarily that LSU is doing. But again, this is a very good offense. Very good offense. So that is certainly, the strength of this team in my eyes, even if the bullpen has been the one kind of responsible, I guess, for that most of that 17-game winning streak. But let's look at some of these guys. I mentioned Mendoza because these are going to be some of the names that you're going to have to look out for and that are going to make a splash for this Texas team if they play well. Ethan Mendoza's hitting .406 on the year. He's got 3 triples, 4 home runs. He's going to play second base. He has really caught my attention. He is a very good hitter. saw him just hit a triple this past weekend against Mississippi State to get a rally going. Max Ballou was the Big 12 Player of the Year last year. He's hitting 338 with 7 doubles, 4 home runs. Last year, he hit 330 with 18 home runs. So this is a left-handed hitter that can really, do some damage. Jalen Flores is hitting 306 on the year. He's got 10 doubles. He's got a few home runs, but last year he hit 18 home runs, hit 340. A lot of people were surprised he even came back to school. He's one of the best shortstops in the country. Matter of fact, I don't remember if it was game 3 where Mississippi State was threatening. It might have been game 2 of the Mississippi State series. He made a great backhand play to end that game. So, he's a tremendous player. Adrian Rodriguez is a switch-hitting freshman, hitting 308, 6 doubles, 4 home runs. Really good player. He's a starter. Kimball Schuessler, not a ton of power, hitting 299 on the year. He did hit 10 home runs last year. Got 8 doubles this year. He's a very good hitter, plays excellent defense at first base. So this is the guy. I don't remember if he hit a home run against LSU last year, but he did something pretty good. I remember him in Houston. But every time I watch Texas, he's doing something. And then I mentioned Will Gasparino, the center fielder. This guy's 6'6", hit 12 home runs last year, can really run, and he's got 4 home runs on the year. But this is a guy that put on a lot of weight. He just looks scary in the box. And then lastly, Rylan Galvan. He's their catcher. He's hitting 314 with 7 home runs, hit, 3 home runs over the last 4 games. So he's going into the series with a lot of steam. And so this is a much better, like they have stars. Missouri didn't have a lot of stars. They were scrappy. Texas has some big name players that are going to play for a long time. And, it's going to be a great challenge. Now, defensively, it's a very solid outfield. I really like Tommy Farmer in left field. He made spectacular plays against Mississippi State. Sometimes they'll put Easton Winfield out there, who's also a good outfielder. But whoever they got out there, very good defenders. Will Gasparino in center field can really track down the ball. And then Max Ballou's in right field. I like this middle infield a lot. So you're talking about Ethan Mendoza at second base, and then Jalen Flores at shortstop, and then you got Kimball Schuessler at first base. So very solid. You got Casey Borba at third base. That I believe he replaced Adrian Rodriguez early on, was a third base. I'm assuming they put Borba in his over there for Rodriguez, because Rodriguez, I think, still leading the team with 5 errors. So defensively, good defensive team. Now let's talk about LSU. LSU is going to present a very different look than Mississippi State did. I think it's a better offense than Mississippi State, more patient. They don't strike out as much. They're going to bunt, and Texas is going to have a lot of pressure applied on them. This is a very big field. So Texas's field, compared to what you see around the SEC, it's a larger field. So this works in LSU's favor, in my opinion. LSU leads the SEC with 59 doubles through 22 games this year. So that is the great thing about this offense, is that it's not live or die by the home run. So to put that in perspective, LSU's got 59 doubles. Tennessee, potent offense, they've got 39 doubles in 1 less game. But that's a big discrepancy. So I like LSU's offense on a big field. Jay Johnson always talks about this, being able to win in any type of park, any type of day, whether wind's blowing out, blowing in. They're going to do whatever they take. So I really like that. LSU is going to be featuring, listen to this. This is impressive. LSU's lineup is going to run out 7 guys hitting 327 or higher, but at least 327. That's nuts. That's nuts. And when Texas, if they start a right-handed pitcher, especially like game 3, they're going to see 8 guys hitting over 327 because Tanner Reeves is going to sub for Michael Braswell. The only 2 guys out of the entire lineup, that aren't hitting that at 327, it is Chris Stanfield. All right. The two guys not reaching a 300 clip are going to be Luis Hernandez, the catcher, and the third baseman, Michael Braswell. So, and we know that those guys can get going. So, again, I think Texas is a good pitching staff, and they're very capable, but it's not one that's going to scares you in a way that they're going to, come out there, strike out 15 guys. Now, I hope not. I might be eating my words, but they don't strike me as that kind of pitching staff. For the LSU pitching staff, one of the keys is going to be early strikes. I already talked about how patient this Texas offense is. So you're going to want to take advantage of that. Don't nibble. Get ahead. Pitch to contact. I've made this point. LSU has an elite defense. Elite. Whether it's the outfield or the infield. Let your defense make plays behind you. And I really do think that you're going to see, like anybody tuning into this series is going to see this defense on display. Maybe they weren't real familiar with how good a defense LSU has, but I think you're going to see it. I mean, with more room in this outfield for these outfielders to go get balls and the way that this infield plays. Now, the one question is the turf. That's the only unfamiliar, variable is how is that going to play into, routine plays? Because that's a different surface than you're used to playing on. Now, I'm sure that they've practiced a lot and these guys have played on turf before, but it is a little bit different. So one of the most intriguing storylines to me is going to be the LSU bullpen. Of this group, Connor Ware, Connor Benj, Maverick Rizzi, William Schmidt, Jaden Newt, DJ Primo, who can step up for LSU this week? Who can give you strikes? I have no doubts that Zach Cowan and Kason Evans are going to do their job and be reliable. It's about who else can you rely on for strikes, because you are taking a step up in the level of hitters you're facing. When that happens, it's not just about, it's not just about, hey, these guys can hit the ball further and hit the ball with more quality. A pitching staff, they know that. They know when they're facing Max Ballou, they can't groove one maybe like they could have against Missouri's, 2 or 3 hole hitter. And when that happens, maybe you're pressing, you're trying to be too cute, nibble, throw the perfect breaking ball or get more on your fastball. And LSU's already kind of struggling with walks, getting behind. So that, that's a big part of this game is throwing strikes. How do they handle that going against better quality of hitters? I think if I'm Nate Yeske, and I'm sure he's telling them, just attack them like every other hitter. Again, use this field to your advantage. I mentioned Zach Cowan. This is something I was thinking of. I can totally see Zach Cowan not only pitching twice this weekend while LSU's waiting for some guys to emerge. I can see him surpassing Riley Cooper's 19 SEC appearances from 2022. I was looking back through who threw the most innings, under Jay Johnson for LSU. And back in 2022, Riley Cooper felt like he pitched every game. And Jay Johnson even alluded to this. Like, we always had to go to Cooper, Razelman, and Paulie G, your race. Cooper, made 19 appearances. In 2023, made 16 appearances. Last year, Christian Little had the most SEC appearances with 12. I think Zach Cowan might reach 20. I can totally see him, unless he's injured, unless he moves into a starting role, which that could happen. I could see him throwing twice every weekend, and I feel great about that. But again, we need guys to step up. I do like LSU to win the series. Initially, this is a series that I thought LSU would lose. When everybody had LSU plugged as the number one team in the country, that they were going to go 25-5 in conference, even then, I thought that this was a series that they could lose. I now think that they're going to win the series. I like their offense so much against Texas's pitching staff, and I think LSU's defense is so good that if LSU's pitchers, now that they're more comfortable, all these guys making their first SEC appearance, I expect them to throw more strikes, to the nerves to be down, even in a hostile environment. So I really do think that LSU is going to get 2 games in this series. I do. I really like Cade Anderson being followed by whoever it is. If Cade Anderson can get somebody to follow, whether it's Connor Binge for 3 outs, and then letting Zach Cowan come in and close it out. That's hard to deal with. Facing Cade Anderson and then Zach Cowan closing out the game, I just think he's such a unique reliever. And then game 2, and I know the combinations can change, but you get Anthony Einson out there, and he just keeps you off guard with the split finger and the way he can throw his curveball. Maybe follow him with Connor Ware, and then you come back with Case and Evans, and then Sunday you get to roll out there, Chase Shores, who's throwing 97 with Sink, and maybe Zach Collins back, William Schmidt. I just like what LSU has. Maybe it's not going to be 4 arms. They're going to use more than Texas did last weekend, but I still don't think they're comfortable enough using, many more than 7 or 8. So, no, I think it would be great if Jaden Newt can get in there and give you something. Primo threw in every game last year, in every game last series, and I'm sure we'll see him, and hopefully guys like Cooper Williams and maybe even be great if Jacob Myers can face a couple of batters and blow that 96 mile per hour heat. But we'll see. But I do like LSU in this series. So the other series that I'll tell you I'm going to be paying attention to is that Oklahoma is hosting Mississippi State. The reason that's interesting is because that's our next 2 opponents now. So Mississippi State, coming off of being swept at home, now goes to Oklahoma. So next weekend we face Oklahoma. We face Mississippi State at home, and then LSU will go to Oklahoma. Now, Oklahoma, the pitching matchups have been released. Mississippi State's staying what they had last weekend, I'm almost certain. Oklahoma, interestingly enough, did have a shakeup. Cade Crossland, who is the number 1 JUCO impact transfer pitcher by D1 baseball, he is now slid into game 2. They have moved Malachi Witherspoon, who was pitching game 2, to game 3. Cade Crossland is replacing Cam Johnson. So Cam Johnson's no longer in the starting rotation. He's just had he's just not been throwing enough strikes, hasn't gotten out of the first or second inning in the last 2 appearances. So there is a shakeup there. And Cade Crossland's good. Connor Ware is the number 2 JUCO impact pitcher in all of college baseball. Cade Crossland was the number 1. So I'll be watching that series as well. But none more closely than LSU and Texas, which are going to start Friday night. And I will be here to talk about it at the conclusion of the series. Hope you join me again. One other thing, I wanted to thank everybody who's been tuning in. I made a joke about this, but I just do this for fun, and I do put a lot of work into it because I love college baseball, but I swear I was convinced that only my mom and my wife were watching or listening. When I saw the numbers, I accidentally pulled it up of the amount of people that have been tuning in, whether it's Spotify or Apple or YouTube. It's mostly the podcast version of it more so than YouTube, but I couldn't believe it. I could not believe that many people. And it's really more of a testament to people of LSU baseball, not me. But I still do want to thank you. So I'm going to keep going as long as you're listening. But that's all I got today. So hopefully we'll be back here at the conclusion of this series with an LSU win. And we will talk to you soon on Inside LSU Baseball. So go Tigers.